This conference will now be recorded.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay. So today's topic like that while doing surgery, right? So if you touch iris, there will be inflammation of the iris. To reduce the iris, only post-operatively we give and steroid drugs. That's the reason we give post-operative in cataract surgery. We give steroids. Okay. So other actions of drugs are anti-allergics. This is it also having an anti-allergic in response, right? So these drugs can be used in vernal keratoconjunctivitis or any conjunctivitis related to allergy, right? In some hay fever related conjunctivitis also we can use steroids. And other actions is anti-fibrotic action. So another one is anti-fibrotic action. These are the main three actions for which we use corticosteroids. The first one is anti-inflammatory. The second one is anti-allergic, and the third one is anti-fibrotic. So this is produced from adrenal cortex, and it is a 21C compound. It has the following three actions, right? So coming to classification, just one second. So coming to classification, there are short acting, right? Long acting and intermediate acting. Short, long and intermediate acting. So short acting, first one is hydrocortisone. Sorry, just one second. First one is hydrocortisone. So in this comes the prednisolone. So and methylprednisolone. So short acting are prednisolone, methylprednisolone and hydrocortisone. These three are the drugs which come under short acting. Now coming to intermediate acting, triamcinolone. So triamcinolone and fluprednisolone. So these two drugs, this is the latest steroid we are using post-operatively, but which is less effective when compared to prednisolone. So prednisolone is the main drug which we give after surgeries. Post-operatively, the drug which we give is prednisolone. Coming to methylprednisolone, we usually give when we have to give for IV infections. Oh, sorry, when we want to give IV, then only we'll give methylprednisolone, like in optic neuritis or so in optic neuritis, if you want to give IV, then we will go with methylprednisolone. So fluprednisolone is the latest post-operative drug, but it is proved that it is less effective than prednisolone. So we are using only prednisolone. So triamcinolone is very important, which is given intravitreally. That is, it is an intravitreal drug. It is given intravitreally. And one more advantage of triamcinolone is if you want to stain the vitreous. If we want to stain the vitreous, we will go with triamcinolone. Why we want to stain the vitreous? For example, if there is any PC rent, you know what is PC rent, right? That is posterior capsular rent is there. Then you have to see whether the vitreous is coming out of the posterior capsule or not. Behind the posterior capsule of the lens is present the vitreous, right? So if this is the lens, sorry for the bad diagrams. Okay, this is cornea. This is all will be the vitreous, right? If there is any rent, or if the first what we will do, we remove the anterior capsule, sorry. We remove the anterior capsule and we will take the lens which is present inside. This is the anterior capsule. We remove anterior capsule from here to here. We remove this part of the anterior capsule, take the nucleus out. This is the posterior capsule. If there is any rent in this posterior capsule, that is, if there is any tear in this posterior capsule, the vitreous will come out like this. From the posterior segment, the vitreous will come out into the anterior segment. So what happens? You want to see whether the vitreous is present within the anterior chamber or not. Then we will inject into the vitreous. We will into the vitreous cavity. We will inject triamcinolone. So when this triamcinolone is injected, there will be this vitreous will get stained into. Usually vitreous is a colorless gel, right? It will get stained into white color. So when this happens, you can see here if any vitreous is present here or in the anterior chamber, we can remove that vitreous by doing vitrectomy. Okay, that's the reason why we use triamcinolone. And also intravitreal injections, if you want to give, you can give triamcinolone. Okay, so these are intermediate. Now coming to long-acting dexamethasone and betamethasone, which you know pretty well. Dexamethasone and betamethasone. These are various types of corticosteroids. That is short-acting, long-acting, and intermediate-acting. So, what are the indications for these corticosteroids in ophthalmology? Okay, so these can be ocular indications and systemic indications. Are you people able to follow or not? Okay. So ocular indications, uveitis. I told you that if you touch the iris or if there is any inflammation of the iris, then we will give corticosteroids, right? So in ocular, the first indication is uveitis, any scleritis, any inflammation, because I told you one of the actions is inflammatory action. The second one is any scleritis or episcleritis, also we can give corticosteroids. Second one is allergic keratitis or allergic conjunctivitis. Okay, or the allergic conjunctivitis means the same thing. Vernal keratoconjunctivitis or any flectennular conjunctivitis, we can give corticosteroids. Second one is cystoid macular edema, which is present in the macular region. So when there is cystoid macular edema, it might be due to some inflammation. So to reduce the edema, and to reduce the edema, we will go with we can use corticosteroids. And as usual, post-operatively, after any surgeries, especially intraocular surgeries. Okay. Now coming to systemic, posterior uveitis, because posteriorly we can't always go and inject steroids. Posterior uveitis, I told you anterior ischemic optic neuropathy, optic neuritis. We can give either orally or IV. Okay. So retrobulbar scleritis behind the equator, if there is any scleritis, then any other the corneal graft rejections. The most important thing is corneal graft rejections. So some other few conditions are there. These are the main conditions where we go with systemic corticosteroids. Ocular, that is the topical corticosteroids. These are the indications, and for systemic, these are the indications. Okay. So coming to these are the corticosteroids we are talking about. Now we are going to deal with non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. That is the NSAIDs, right? NSAIDs. So NSAIDs, what is the mechanism of action? It blocks the enzyme. These are very important for your viva. It blocks the enzyme cyclooxygenase, right? It blocks the enzyme cyclooxygenase. This is the mechanism of action. So it inhibits prostaglandin biosynthesis. This mechanism of action you're supposed to write. So it blocks the enzyme cyclooxygenase, which further inhibits prostaglandin biogenesis. Okay. So what happens? What are the preparations available? It's available in salicylates. It's available for systemic use. It's available as aspirin. It is available acetaminophen. All these things are available forms. But in coming to topical, it is available as flurbiprofen, which is most important drug, which is available as Flubi in ophthalmology. Next one is ketorolac. These are the most commonly used drug. Nepafinac. Okay, these three are the most important drugs we use topically in ophthalmology. So indications. Coming to indications. If the inflammation is little bit less when compared to comparatively, then we can go with NSAIDs. If the inflammation is high, we can go with corticosteroids, right? So coming to indications of NSAIDs, episcleritis, as usual, scleritis, uveitis. If the inflammation is less when compared, cystoid macular edema, and sometimes we can give preoperatively also. Because initially, if you give high steroids, there will be increase in IOP, which is one of the complications with corticosteroids. Then it is not apt to do surgery if the IOP is raised. So preoperatively, we can give non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. Okay. So sometimes we use these drugs to maintain the pupil dilatation. We will dilate the pupil for cataract surgery. To maintain this dilatation, some surgeons will prefer to give non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. So these are the indications for non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. Now coming to immunosuppressants, the second entity. So immunosuppressants we give in uveitis. So in uveitis, what are the conditions? Cox-Koyanagi-Harada syndrome, BKH, which is very important syndrome where we give immunosuppressants. Next one is sympathetic ophthalmitis. So sympathetic ophthalmitis and Behçet syndrome. So these are the drugs where we use, these are the conditions where we use immunosuppressants. So the most important conditions, the absolute indications, we can say these as absolute indications. So the absolute indications for use of immunosuppressants are VKH, that is Cox-Koyanagi-Harada syndrome, sympathetic ophthalmitis, and Behçet syndrome. Okay, so there are some relative indications where we are supposed to give immunosuppressants, like intermediate uveitis, any vasculitis like retinal vasculitis, like Eales disease example. Okay, any refractory uveitis. Any refractory uveitis, we'll go with immunosuppressants. These are relative indications. Okay, these are absolute indications must, and these are relative indications. These are related to uveitis. So other indications are any corneal graft rejection. After keratoplasty, if there is any corneal graft rejection, then we have to always start immunosuppressants, right? We are supposed to start immunosuppressions. And other indications like Murren's ulcers in cornea. Okay, these are immune-mediated ulcers. After other indications are glaucoma filtration surgeries. After glaucoma filtration surgeries, we are supposed to give if immunosuppressants if there is any bleb failure. If there is any bleb failure or any bleb treatment in bleb failures, we use in glaucoma surgery. After glaucoma surgery, we use immunosuppressants. So sometimes in recurrent pterygiums, we can use immunosuppressants, but very rare. In other cases like cicatricial pemphigoid, any scleritis, refractory scleritis, then also we are supposed to start immunosuppressants. So what are the common immunosuppressants we are using in ophthalmology? First one is cyclosporin. Okay, so cyclosporin, this is the most important drug we use in ophthalmology. So these come under immunomodulators. So what immunomodulators we are using are cyclosporin and tacrolimus. So this cyclosporin you can go with both systemically and topically also. Okay, tacrolimus also both systemic and topical. Most common indication for this is VKC, that is vernal keratoconjunctivitis or allergic keratoconjunctivitis. You are using this as ointment form in the recent days. There is the recently they have produced the tacrolimus in ointment form, and we're using in ointment form. Okay, so other drugs, the second group of drugs are cytotoxic drugs. The first one is immunomodulators and the second one is cytotoxic drugs. So cytotoxic drugs, they are again divided. First one is antimetabolites. So coming to antimetabolites, the first one is azathioprine and second one is methotrexate, right? So these mechanisms of actions, it will interfere with DNA replication. Okay, and the second one, this one is it suppresses cell mediated reactions. Okay, so these are the antimetabolites. And the second drugs of cytotoxic drugs are alkylating agents. The first in this one is cyclophosphamide. So coming to immunomodulators, cyclosporin is the first one, second one is tacrolimus. And coming to cytotoxic drugs, again they are divided into antimetabolites, that is azathioprine and methotrexate. And the second one is alkylating agents, the most commonly used is cyclophosphamide. Okay, so these are all the immunosuppressants we use. The most common, I told you previously, the most common indications are VKH, sympathetic ophthalmitis, and Behçet syndrome. Other relative indications are also there where we use immunosuppressants. Okay, now coming to anti-allergic drugs, the third group which we are going to discuss today, anti-allergic drugs, right? So anti-allergic drugs, there are many types. So most commonly used in allergic conjunctivitis, right? So anti-allergic drugs, first one is H1 receptor antagonist. So it is available in levocabastine, which is the most common drug we use, but we don't use these drugs very frequently. Second one is mast cell stabilizers. So the most common drug is cromolyn sodium. Okay, the most common drug is cromolyn sodium, usually used in chronic allergies. Okay, these are usually used in chronic allergies. Next one is antihistaminic. These are all the anti-allergic drugs. Next one, antihistamines. The most common drug is olopatadine. It is available as Olopat. It is the most common drug. Recently, they have introduced one more drug which is very useful nowadays in ophthalmology, that is Bipotastine. Okay, available as Bipos eye drops. Okay, this drug we can use even less than 2 years age group. Okay, so Bipos is the most common drug now we are using. So next one is topical NSAIDs. We already discussed about topical NSAIDs. Why you use NSAIDs? To reduce the inflammation, itching, all those things. Next one is vasoconstrictors. The most common used is nefazolin. Now next one is mild corticosteroids, also called as weak corticosteroids. Okay, so loteprednol. This is the most common drug we use, and we also use very commonly FML, that is fluorometholone. This is the very important drug in ophthalmology for allergies. Okay, so FML, that is fluorometholone. So it can be used, these drugs all be used in allergic conjunctivitis, or sometimes if there is any fall of foreign body, after foreign body there will be severe allergic reaction. Those times also we go with usually fluorometholone drug. So sometimes we use oral also if the patient is having severe allergy like levocetirizine or cetirizine we can give. Or if the patient is having even systemic allergic conditions also, then we will go with, along with topical, we go with systemic anti-allergics. So if there are any cases of refractory allergic conjunctivitis, then we will also start immunomodulators. Okay, so this is all about anti-allergics. So any doubts? How many of you are listening the class? So nobody is there online, right?
No.
How many are there on the online? Hardly, I think
123.
3 or 4 people are there.
Yes, ma'am.
Online, 123 people are there, but how many of you are listening?
Yes, ma'am.
In
Yes,
between, I
ma'am.
asked it 3 times. None of you responded. None of you responded. I asked it 3 times. None of you responded. What shall we do now? How you people are going to write your exams? Just you will by heart and you'll go and write your exams? How many of you, sincerely you tell me, how many of you attended this class? How many of you listened this class? If I ask questions, none of you will answer. I know that. That's the reason I stopped preparing PPTs also. Why I should take so much of a struggle and prepare PPTs?